My name is Wale Adebanjo, and for most of my life, I believed I could spot trouble from a mile away. Growing up in Surulere, Lagos toughened me early, dodging con artists, navigating crowded streets, and hustling to make it. But nothing prepared me for the whirlwind that struck when Cloud4 Security, my small cybersecurity startup in Ikeja, became the target of a serious hacking campaign. It all began on a Monday morning. I arrived at the office to find multiple intrusion attempts in our server logs. Whoever was behind these attacks was skilled, bypassing layers of security like it was child's play. My team and I had dealt with minor threats before, mostly from amateur hackers testing their fortune, but this was different, more methodical and relentless. We felt under siege, yet we had no clue who could go to such lengths against a fledgling company like ours. That very week, I attended a cybersecurity conference in Victoria Island. My goal was to pick up new strategies for defending against advanced hackers and possibly meet potential collaborators. The event was a frenzy of tech demos, panels, and product pitches. People buzzed around discussing phishing attempts, data breaches, and the future of Nigerian tech. Amid that chaos, I noticed a woman standing near a booth on encryption software. She was talking with someone about network firewalls, speaking with clarity and depth. I admired how she seemed so at ease, discussing technical jargon like it was second nature to her. When she finished, I introduced myself. She smiled and said, "I am Kemi Olarinwaju." We ended up discussing my startup, Cloud4, and the challenges we were facing. She listened intently, occasionally offering insights that made me think, she knows her stuff. By the time we finished, I was convinced she could be a valuable contact, maybe a consultant or even a partner. We exchanged phone numbers and promised to talk more in depth later. Within days, Kemi reached out. We met for lunch at a small restaurant in Marina, overlooking the water. Over plates of steaming jollof rice and fried plantain, we swapped stories of growing up in Lagos. It turned out we both had roots in Surulere. Her father had once worked at the National Stadium, while mine was a mechanic near Ojuelegba. As we chatted, the conversation drifted toward my current problem. Cloud4 systems were still under siege. She listened patiently, asking me to describe our server setup, firewall layers, and the nature of the intrusion attempts. I welcomed her input. Any fresh perspective might help me figure out who was behind these attacks. Kemi mentioned she was a freelance cybersecurity consultant and had advised several startups in the past. Eager for any assistance, I invited her to visit Cloud4's office in Ikeja and see if she could suggest improvements. She agreed without hesitation. I didn't realize it then, but that launch would mark the start of something I never saw coming. A relationship that would blur the lines between professional and personal in ways I couldn't imagine. Kemi began dropping by Cloud4 regularly. She'd sit with my small team, just four of us, and review our logs, pointing out unusual patterns. Her insights were sharp, and within days, we implemented new security patches based on her recommendations. Morale in the office soared. We felt like we finally had a fighting chance against these invisible attackers. Outside of work, Kemi and I clicked on a deeper level. One evening, we decided to unwind at Takwa Bay. We took the ferry, the city lights reflecting on the water, the salty air tinged with the sounds of distant Afrobeat. We chatted about our dreams, ambitions, and the speed of tech growth in Nigeria. At one point, she told me how she'd lost her mother, also a tech enthusiast, when she was young, and how she had vowed to follow in her footsteps. I shared how my father's garage taught me the importance of grit and perseverance. We joked about traffic in Oshodi, shared street food from vendors who recognized our faces, and talked about the future of cybersecurity in Africa. Even my closest friend at Cloudfort, Aisha, teased me about how often Kemi appeared at the office. "You two are always together," she'd say, winking. But while our bond grew, so did the attacks. Cloudfort's intrusion logs multiplied. We caught glimpses of a cunning adversary who seemed to anticipate our defenses. One night, I stayed in the office past midnight, determined to catch the hacker in real time. I found nothing conclusive, only a sense of dread that we were up against a formidable enemy with resources far beyond typical script kiddie hackers. Kemi and I shared memorable evenings around Lagos, strolling through the busy lanes of Balogun Market, trying roasted corn near Marina, and once taking a drive to Lekki Conservation Center to walk the Canopy Bridge. Each outing reminded me there was more to life than chasing down lines of codes. She had a way of making me forget the stress that kept piling up at the office. During one of those peaceful moments, sitting on a bench at the edge of the lagoon, Kemi rested her head on my shoulder. She said softly, "I believe in you, Wale. What you are doing at Cloudfort can help so many businesses in this country." Her words sent a warm wave through me. In a city as frenetic as Lagos, that feeling of closeness and support was rare. I realized I was falling in love with her. Still, there were troubling signs around me. One evening after work, I noticed a dark SUV trailing me through the back roads of Ikeja. When I turned onto a well-lit main road, it sped off. I tried to brush it aside, but a nagging worry formed. I told Kemi about it and she urged me to be careful, suggesting I should vary my route home, a standard security tip, but it felt like it came from personal experience. Meanwhile, my staff noticed more disturbing security alerts. Someone used credentials that resembled mine to access sensitive internal files in the dead of the night. I was furious and confused. Only I had those codes. We triple checked for malware or keyloggers but found nothing definitive. I refused to show fear, but inside I was shaking. My frustration peaked on the night before a crucial pitch to a major telecommunications client. If we landed that deal, Cloudfort would finally have the capital to expand. I stayed late at the office, refining the presentation slides, while everyone else had gone home, exhausted from the day. Around 10:30 p.m., the overhead lights flickered, then died. Our generator usually kicked in after a few seconds, but this time, the backup power stayed off. The entire floor went dark, except for the faint glow of emergency exit signs. Confused, I stepped into the corridor to find it eerily silent. I used my phone's flashlight to guide me toward the server room. Maybe a fuse had blown. Halfway there, I heard muffled voices around the corner. Then I spotted the beams of flashlights bouncing against the walls and panic seized me. This wasn't an ordinary power outage. I quickly ducked behind a row of filing cabinets and saw three men dressed in dark clothes and holding what looked like metal rods or crowbars. They were moving with purpose, whispering instructions. One said, "Check the server room, hurry." My heart pounded. They were clearly after Cloudfort's core systems. This wasn't a random burglary. I thought about calling the police, but my phone signal was dead. Likely jammed or maybe the network was down. Fear gripped me. I needed to escape or at least buy time until help arrived. As I inched back toward the reception area, I nearly tripped over something. Shining my phone downward, I realized it was the body of our night security guard, unconscious but still breathing. My mind raced. How did he knock him out so quietly? A sudden clatter echoed from the server room, followed by a shout. One of the intruders hissed, "Who's there? Find him!" I froze, certain they had heard me. My chest felt tight, and a rush of adrenaline jolted me into action. I darted for a side exit, footsteps thundering behind me. I yanked the door open and sprinted down the emergency stairs, certain I could hear them closing in. I burst out onto the street in the faint glow of a nearby street lamp. I saw Kemi standing beside a small car, eyes wide with alarm. She waved frantically for me to get in. The surrealness of her presence at this hour barely registered. I hopped into the passenger seat and she floored the accelerator, the tires screeching as we sped away. We drove in tense silence through back roads. My mind was a whirlwind of questions. How did she know I was in danger? Why was she here so late? But relief overshadowed my confusion. Kemi had saved me, at least for the moment. We ended up at a cheap motel in Oshodi, a cramped room with peeling paint and a flickering overhead bulb. My hands still shook from the ordeal. Kemi paced the floor, chewing her lip as if weighing whether to say something. Finally, she stopped and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, an uneasy mix of sorrow and regret. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. I braced myself, uncertain what could possibly be more shocking than what I'd just experienced. Kemi took a deep breath and confessed everything. She was no mere freelance consultant. She had been working for a dangerous syndicate that specialized in corporate espionage, blackmail, and data theft. Their network spanned Lagos, targeting promising startups and established companies alike. She had been sent to infiltrate CloudFront from the moment she approached me at the conference. Her job was to sabotage my systems and compromise me financially so the syndicate could profit or crush my company if I refused to comply with their terms. For weeks, she'd fed them inside information, my server details, firewall settings, even login credentials. When the intruders arrived tonight, they were fully prepared with codes and knowledge she had provided. Kemi only realized at the last moment that they intended to kill me rather than merely steal data. Every word she spoke felt like a punch to my gut. The woman I had come to trust, respect, and even love had been orchestrating my downfall from the start. My throat constricted with betrayal and disbelief. I struggled to find my voice. "Why?" I croaked at last. Kemi's eyes glistened with tears. She explained how the syndicate held a dark secret from her past over her, threatening her life if she failed. She swore she never wanted to hurt me, that she'd grown to care for me deeply. That was why she did her part to protect me at the last second. Anger, hurt, and heartbreak swelled inside me. But the reality was stark. Both of us were now in danger. Her employers will see her sudden turn as a betrayer. They will come after us both. That night, we fled Oshodi and moved from one safe house to another. Sometimes sleeping in a friend's cramped spare room in Yaba, other times in a cousin's unoccupied apartment in Ikorodu. Our only chance to survive was to expose the syndicate before they tracked us down. Kemi used her hacking skills to conceal our digital footprints while I reached out to a trusted journalist at a well-known newspaper. I'd seen her expose corruption in Lagos before, and I hoped she could do the same with these criminals. Kemi revealed the syndicate's internal communication channels. Together, we gathered logs, messages, and incriminating files. We spent sleepless nights, hunched over laptops, scanning for anything that would decisively implicate the group. Each time I looked at Kemi, I saw the woman I loved colliding with the person who had deceived me. Yet, the urgency of our situation overshadowed my personal turmoil. Our big break came when Kemi discovered the address of a secret server room on the outskirts of Lagos. The files stored there would expose the entire operation: names, illegal deals, blackmail material. If we leaked it all, we could trigger a massive raid and finally turn the tables. We drove out late at night using Kemi's knowledge of the building's security protocols. She manipulated the cameras to loop old footage, giving us a brief window to slip in undetected. My heart hammered as I watched her disable alarms with the same skill that had once sabotaged my company. Inside rows of servers humed under fluorescent lights, Kemi plugged a flash drive into the central console and began the data transfer. I kept watch near the entrance, ears straining for any sound. After what felt like an eternity, she whispered, "Done." Just then, footsteps approached from behind a stack of crates. A flashlight beam cut through the dim space and an enforcer shouted, "Stop right there!" We dove behind a row of servers, my pulse thundering. The flash drive was still in Kemi's grip. If we lost it, everything we'd done would be for nothing. She typed a final command that locked the syndicate's file behind a passcode only we knew, delaying their ability to recover the data. Then we sprinted for the exits, bullets whizzing past, sparks flying as they struck metal. I felt a burning gaze on my arm, but pressed on. With one desperate leap, we burst outside and dashed to our car, engines roaring as we fled into the Lagos night. Early the next morning, we handed off the flash drive to the journalists in a secret meeting spot. Within days, explosive headlines rocked Lagos. Massive cybercrime syndicate uncovered. The leaked files named prominent figures involved in hacking, fraud, and blackmail. The police and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission launched swift operations arresting members of the syndicate. Our ordeal was far from over. Though Kemi's role as an insider turned informant placed her under scrutiny, she eventually agreed to cooperate with the authorities, providing further evidence in exchange for protection and a plea deal. Despite everything, I found myself speaking on her behalf, confirming how she'd saved my life and helped expose the syndicate when she could have run or remained silent. The last time I saw Kemi was outside the EFCC building in Ikoyi. She clutched a small bag of personal belongings, face drawn with exhaustion. She was heading in to officially turn herself in. The city buzzed around us, cars honking, people calling out to street vendors, but it all felt muted as we stood there, hearts heavy. "Wale," she said softly, "you have every right to hate me." I searched her eyes and saw genuine remorse. "I don't hate you," I managed, my voice thick with emotion. "I'm hurt, I'm angry, but I know you risked everything to do the right thing in the end." She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. We both knew our bond had been forged under lies and tested by danger. Yet a part of me still cared for her, the woman who had shown me a different side of Lagos, one of hope, connection, and possibility even amidst deception. She walked through those doors, and I haven't seen her since. Cloudfort survived and even grew in the aftermath with new clients who admired our resilience. But my life changed forever. I learned that trust can be fragile, especially in a city where the hustle never sleeps. I also learned that love can bloom in the most unexpected places, and sometimes even betrayal can lead to redemption. That's my truth. The darkest shadows can hide behind the brightest smiles, and not every romance has a neat ending. In a place like Lagos, you adapt, you forgive, and you carry on. I still hope Kemi finds her peace. Perhaps one day, when all is said and done, she and I will cross paths again, both changed by secrets we never meant to keep. This is a story as I lived it, from ambition to betrayal to survival. In Lagos, you learn to expect the unexpected, but nothing prepared me for Kemi and the twisted paths that bound us together. If there is any lesson, it's that even when everything falls apart, you can still stand up, rebuild, and find fruit, even if it's not the one you hoped for.